I don't think it's that hard.
Yeah, it is.
This is only the second heaviest game by Vital Lacerda. Hello!
Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Toph Ferguson.
And we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. Today, we're going to be talking about
Lisboa.
Ah.
A brain burner, of course.
A brain burner.
Yes.
So stick around to the end. We're going to go through several points, positives, negatives, weight, value rating, our ratings. And at the end, you'll be able to determine, is this for you? Is it worth your time? And is it worth your money? So stick around, check us out. Hopefully, if you like it, that little subscribe button. We really could appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Toph,
Yes.
who designed this?
Brad Lake.
I wish.
No offense. Well, you are an engineer. You could probably come up with a Uno. So this is Lisboa. This is designed by Vital Lacerda. It is published by Eagle Griffin Games, and it is a heavyweight, difficult, brain burner, glorious game. The game itself is just, there's so much going on. Wait till you hear, if you've never played this game, if you don't know anything about this game, wait until you hear us probably start to bicker and maybe even cry at some of our own experiences talking about this game itself. But this game itself, probably one of the heaviest games that we have ever played, and we'll get more about that weight rating and why we consider it that way a little bit later on. But before we get there, you'll see the board in front of us. Brad, tell us a little bit about the look and the appearance and whatnot of this game.
So this is by Eagle Griffin Games and art by Ian O'Toole, I believe.
Sounds about right. Yep.
So Vetal and Ian seem to have a good relationship. Either that or Eagle Griffin Games just puts the two geniuses together to work.
Yeah.
But Eagle Griffin Games makes, I think, the best quality games. I think there might be some debate about that, but I personally think their games have the best quality. Like the bags that you get, the thickness of the cardboard, double layered, the artwork, they're not skimping on anything. And then you're paying for it too. But, for each one of Vital Lacerda's games, the art epitomizes the game and what he's trying to go for. So, I think this does a great job. If you like the theme, if you like this time period in the 1700s, everything flows. And I'll get to it in my story, but I've been to Lisboa. This game is why I went to Lisbon. And the Azul tiles and everything that they make is embodied in this board. So the appearance is great. I mean, if you're really kind of wondering, the theme of Portugal and the theme of Lisbon is kind of embodied in this blue, I wouldn't say it's terracotta, but like these are Azul tiles, look like the game is on. Put a post of some of those tiles from the castle that's in Lisbon up on the website if you want to go check that out on our community post. But I can't say enough about all the detail in it, all the little intricacies in it, the names of the streets. they're actual names of the streets in Lisbon. You know, all those things, they all tie together, and it just makes it pretty cool. It really does. It's really, really impressive on the appearance. So
I agree. And it's little things. It's the little details sometimes that pushes a game. And this is key to the team that developed it. So obviously Lacerda, but also, Tool, artwork is fantastic, but it's the little things that I love. Like, if you know much about the history of Lisbon and the earthquake, the flood, the fires, you see that depicted across the top of the board. Like, you see the different eras and the destruction and the rubble. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, you were correct. I mean, it's like they thought of every inch of this board and how it ties back.
Yeah.
And that's impressive.
Yeah, it's very stunning. I mean, how I don't know if, I'm sure the mechanics of it is laid out by Vetal, but then how Ian takes that and then turns it into something like this. I'd be curious in just the creative iterative process that goes on between them, how they do that. So it's pretty cool. So let's move on to the mechanics as we can continue to gush over the appearance.
Yeah.
What are the mechanics? It has all of them.
It doesn't
have card drafting or
it
deck building.
It has, no, it does not have deck building. It does have
has all the rest of them.
It does have everything else. No, it actually mechanically is not a whole lot of mechanics. They're just challenging as you go through.
The Vital Lacerda mechanics.
Yeah. So you'll notice a handful of things, and if you look at the different areas of the boards, and I say boards because you've also got your player board. It's not just a tableau. We're going to call this a board because it is. You're playing on it too. You can see where the mechanics come in different plays. You've got open drafting, card drafting. So you've got the section over here with the royals where you're going to be able to collect cards. You're actually putting them in your hand. You are playing cards to do actions, and that is a huge part of the game, but that's just a part of the game. So that's how you initiate your actions. You do something. You have a card, and that card is going to allow you, like worker placement-ish, to be able to take some type of an action. Probably the biggest thing that you would talk about when it comes to mechanics is actually the tile placement and area control, area majority that you see over in this section of the board, where you are actually building your stores, you're building public stores, you're building the city, or rebuilding, I should say, thematically, the city over here. You also have economic mechanics within it. So depending on what you're doing and what goods you have, you might be selling goods, you might be collecting goods or producing goods. They're going to have different values that are sliding as you go throughout this game because, well, I don't know. Let's talk about Economics 101. Supply and demand. There it is. You also have the rubble that you are collecting as you take things to make things a little bit cheaper, and then you're using that rubble to be able to increase your playing board. So now you are adding into it tableau building into the mechanics. It has several of these themes that we see in so many different games. But one thing that ties almost all of them together is your influence. And that's one thing I don't think we see a lot in some of our games, especially at lower weights, is where your influence is going to affect your ability to play this game. And how you make decisions is going to positively or negatively affect your influence, which will turn into your money as well, your commerce as you go throughout the game. So you can see that all of these mechanics, those are the major ones that I can think of. I don't think I'm really missing a whole lot. We've got tableau building, we've got area control, tile placements, resource management, card drafting.
Yeah, and it's worker placement light, but it's you have 3 places to place your workers, but then you have a tableau where you're unlocking these guys and you're placing them in the house of the worker placement area, right? And then it makes it more expensive for somebody else to go to that place. Like, that's the influence he's talking about. So it's like, these aren't worker placement, but it makes it cost more for somebody else to go to that area.
Yeah.
So you're not blocking. It's not a blocking worker placement game. It's a, hey, I'm going to force you to pay more, or I'm going to force you to do something because I know you want to go there, and I want to rule that area as long as I can.
To make it harder for you to go. Do something. Yeah. And that's going to be the difference between, I guess I would call this more action selection than worker placement, because when I think worker placement, I think I'm blocking somebody else from an action spot. Yeah. But it is very much, I mean, There's definite actions where you have to do things. And that's where I think some people really play up or really play down the card play in the game, because that is a big part of it, but really that's only a part of it. That's only a small part of it. But yeah, it's a lot of mechanics. It's a lot of things going on all at one time, and they're all intertwined. So that's where we're going to talk a little bit later about complexity. So that's mechanics. We talked a little bit about the appearance. I am dying to know a little bit about why this game took you halfway around the world.
So I got the game first. We'll point that out. Watched one of the YouTube channels, one of your favorites.
Yeah, before you play,
they did a Toph Lacerda list, and I had Kanban EV, and we love that game. And so this was the second game that I got because of watching their channel, and it was her number one. And I like this game. You try, like I said, you always try to find the people that you identify as the games that you like, right? And this was probably before I really did a lot more of that, like which channels do I really work with in the games that they did. I'm like, hey, it's their number one. This is the next game I'm gonna get. This is also the hardest. Well, second hardest Lacerda. So we've played it. And then I'm like, my now wife wanted to go on a trip, and I'm like, we couldn't go where we wanted to because of the whole Russian thing. It was getting too close to the border. And so I'm like, well, let's go to Lisbon. I got this board game I want to play. I want to play Lisboa in Lisbon. And so I thought that would be kind of cool. Anyway, thought we'd get more filmed of it and such, but I'm like, I want to do that. And so I got to go to all the different streets. Like, I found all these streets, and I'll put some B-roll up, and you can kind of just see pictures of it. Went to the main court, went to the church that's represented here. Saw these statues that are represented on the board. So all that was pretty cool. I was sitting there taking pictures for you guys, and for myself, just to be how much of a geek can I be? Got married, have the board in the wedding picture. I'll show that too. So all those kind of things, of just being corny and having fun with it. But that's kind of my story with it. Now, and we'll get into like the positives and negatives. This game's rough. This game is a rough game, and so what is? But we'll digress. What's your story about this?
So diving into the world of Lacerda games started when Brad got Kanban EV, and so that game, I have played some heavyweight games, and I was ready for it. I think I maybe was a little overly ready for that game because I instantly fell in love with it. It's a fantastic game. I didn't find it quite as hard as I thought it was going to be with the rating of the game. And then when he talked about getting Lisboa, I also really enjoy that channel, and I've seen it on some other channels as well. It's like, I think this is the game that I'm going to like a little bit more. And my whole thought behind that was not the gameplay. My whole thought was the theme of the game. Brad's a car guy. I am not. I'm a history buff. I like Kanban EV, but I don't really care anything about the theme. So the theme does nothing for me in it. The gameplay is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I love that game. I do enjoy it. This one drew me in from that theme. And I like especially the darker side of history, the traumatic side of history. And so to talk about, while we play this game, the entire story of the trauma that Lisbon has seen, and to be able to play it, that's what really kind of drew me into it. And then all of a sudden, I understood why this game is as heavy as it is. And I think there is for me, there's a large discrepancy between this and Kanban EV or many of the other games. I don't necessarily think this is so much heavier for me in my gameplay, but I see where it definitely does come up a little bit more. And I like that a lot more. I feel like for me, what drew me into this game almost instantly, setting it so far apart for me from Kanban, was that this game has so many things going on at one time and so many subsets off of the actions. With a game like Kanban EV, there's a lot going on, but you go to a location and you take that action. Then you go to a location and you take that action. True worker placement. With this one, you play a card here and you've got these options, and depending on which options you choose means you have different options here, which gives you different options here, which is going to change different options here. I love that. I love that a lot. So that's what drew me into this one. This is absolutely quickly jumping, like screaming at me from the very first play of this game is fantastic and I'm going to love it. So that is my story with it. I mean, it was some games, it takes a little bit of a while to play. I think even with Kanban, I really enjoyed that first play, but it took me a couple plays. This one, halfway through the first game, I think I was screaming, I love this game. I love this game. So
I'm going to challenge him a little bit. This is easy.
I don't say it's easy. Let's not say it's easy.
Okay, easy for you. But do you remember how to play it right now?
Yes.
Ish. We'll get into that.
There's a lot going on.
The player aid.
That's just the player aid. That's not the rules.
Just the player aid. So I love him. He's my best friend. But you can't just sit down there. And we're gonna we'll get into our positive and negatives when it's just kind of like when he says it's easy. Yeah, there's caveats.
Yes. Everything is relative. Let's go ahead and say everything is relative. There's, So
kick it off with your positives. So you kind of told us your story. We're kind of flip the script a bit.
Yes.
What are your positives about the game that somebody not having played it would want to know?
Yeah. One of my first positives with the game is there are many ways to victory, and it's going to hurt your brain to try to identify which is going to work for you in the given gameplay in that scenario. And I love that challenge. I love being so dumbfounded when I look at it thinking, I know what I'm going to do, and it's not going to work. And so for me, that's a huge positive. I know for some people that is absolutely not a positive at all. But for me, I love that strategizing and that tactical play that I have to weigh in my mind. That's going to bring analysis paralysis, I know, into this, and that's going to make the game a little bit harder. But that is one of my absolute first things that I love. So many ways to victory. But what you do in one game is not going to necessarily be the best for the next. And what I do is definitely probably not what Brad is going to find the same route to path to victory in the same game. And so that's one of the things I absolutely love. I also like that I feel this is extremely solitaire play, as a lot of these heavyweights Euros tend to be solitaire play. We're playing together, but we're playing on our own board, building our own board up. Yet there is so much interaction. And so while it is such a very solitaire game, as Brad was talking about, when you're placing your people out here, you are greatly affecting the others and how they're able to take their place. So you're not going to necessarily play on my board, and you may not be easily able to stop me in certain things, but you can block areas that you think I may be going for. You can get the ships that are better. You can sometimes you play off each other with your ship selling goods and stuff. That can obviously benefit you and the other person, but sometimes you can play that in a way to benefit yourself so much more than the other player. There's still a lot of interaction. It's kind of Cold War-ish, but there's still a lot of interaction with it. And I think when you get into, especially the heavyweight games, you need it to be solitaire because there's so much going on. You don't want too much of a play with another person to change everything every single turn, but it has enough of that interaction with it that you are feeling like you are constantly engaged with everybody else. So that's a huge positive. I could give you a ton of positives about it, but that is probably my biggest. Chaining of events is another big thing too. Really trying to play out and see how many things you get done at one time based on how you're playing is fun. Just to see, is this a small action? Am I just going to collect some influence, or am I actually going to work on something that makes me feel like, look at what I just did, y'all? So that's another really big part of it. And then obviously, as I mentioned already, the theme. How they have integrated the theme into every single part of this game makes me want to play it more because it just screams and reinforces even more the theme. Mm-hmm. So those are some of my positives. It's kind of hard to deduct what I was saying out of that, but it's heavyweight. So when you get heavyweight, you can't just say, I like this one aspect of it. What about you?
Well, I would have to agree with Toph on the theme. I believe that, in my opinion, this is Vital Lacerda's Opus, right? Like, so the positive is you're literally sitting down and playing a game at probably at the peak of a designer's breadth and depth and soul in this game. He's from Portugal. You know, you've got a lot of there's a lot in here from him, like, you know, at a level that's just really interesting. So you're playing that, you know, and experiencing that in a way that's history that he's put into a game, which is just interesting in and of itself. So that knowing, like, I don't know, it's kind of like going to some grand cathedral or some art, you know, museum piece and seeing it, like, you get to play that. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if I agree with Toph that there's many ways to win.
Yeah.
And that's probably I'm starting to find it across the board with Vital Lacerda. There's one way, there's one funnel to win. There's a bunch of things you can do around it for little points. But if you're going to win, you got to play a certain aspect of it. With Kanban, it's the meetings. And I think, I was talking, you weren't there, but we played this last time. It's the 3x times points that overweight the meetings. And I think we took those cards out. I'm going to try it next time. The points would get a lot more narrower, and then you could have multiple ways to win. To me, I think that's the same thing when you're building in this area. And I guess that's kind of my negative, but like, there are a lot of things you can do in this game. So, you know, that those are positives. They also can be also negatives. And so I'm going to flip right into my negatives, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much with this game. Like, I've played this as much as Kanban EV now, I think. And I can play Kanban EV and they're like, oh, there's one rule that I got to remember what you do. I can't do that with this game. Like, I can't. And he can't either. Like, we can kind of get it going and moving, but it's like, you're going to relearn this game. Unless you're going to play this game every week, probably for 8 weeks, and you're going to go away from it, you're probably going to come back and go like, oh, crap, what was that? Yeah. There's that many. You've got all these numbers that tell you all the different things that all these chits do and all the bags do and all the things in there. You know, it's daunting. You know, so that's the thing. Like, don't let this be your first Lacerda.
No.
You do not want to come into Lacerda. Probably. And then I guess on Mars is harder than this. We haven't played that yet. Mm-hmm. But, like, don't let this be your first. Yeah. You know, I would argue, like, the Gallerist or the Kanban EV, which I like. You know, pick your theme.
Yeah.
But try steer towards those. What's your negatives with this?
Yeah, I think just to echo that, this game is not as accessible. I would not put any of the top Lacerda games, you know, Venus, On Mars, Escape Plan, The Gallerist, Kanban EV, this one, any of those as an accessible game to anybody that's in the hobby, but somebody that is used to playing the heavyweight game, somebody who already understands the mechanics. You know, this is not the one that I would start with. I would definitely go with another one. You know, negatives. Yes, it does take coming back. And we talked about, do we want to do a gameplay, like a playthrough on video? And I was like, I want to play it again beforehand because I do want to remember there's a lot of analysis paralysis in this game. And that is because of the complexity of the game. And especially for somebody like myself who internalizes so much before I act, before I do something, there is going to be that aspect to it. Mm-hmm. So the accessibility of it is definitely a negative, with the caveat that if you are somebody who plays these games, obviously then it's not going to be not accessible. But that is going to be a big one. I think with any heavyweight game like this, the jumping off point, the learning point is just, it's a lot. And I think there may almost be just a little bit too much going on in this game to really be able to bring it to the table right away and be able to play it and then want to keep bringing it back for minor things. And we didn't talk about this in the mechanics. There's an entire track that you may be able to see if you're looking at the top down. You can see the bottom part of it here where you have pretty much victory condition cards that are coming out. They're objectives, things that you can work towards that's going to give you additional games at the end of play. And when we first learned this game, Derek, one of the guys in our gaming group...
You have to play that.
Yes. His thing was, if you're going to win this game, you have to play that. I have never really played that.
No.
Like, I've gotten 1, maybe 2 cards each time that I've played it at most, and that's it. Yeah. I almost could do away with that and be perfectly fine with the game. Now, with that said, the more that I think about this game, not while playing it, but the more I think about it, I think that could be a way that could bring, like I mentioned, many paths to victory, that maybe is one way to balance out where my gameplay is going to be one way. Maybe that's a gameplay that somebody else needs to be able to make such a heavyweight game work for them. But for me, I almost think that that's a useless part of the game. Maybe I don't know the game well enough to know how to play it. Maybe that's where it is.
But this is where I get to Vetal sort of like funnels you into where there's points. The points are here, the multipliers. So like, and I think a lot of your, maybe not a lot, but Vetal sort of games have a multiplier, and if you're able to chain that multiplication of victory points, you take off, right? And so like to play against Toph, I have to play the multiplier, because the victory conditions, they're giving you little pittance, they're giving you coins, they're not giving you dollars, and here you can get 15 points in one scoring round, and there's multiple scoring rounds throughout the game.
You've got the 2 scoring rounds,
so like, you just have to realize, like, where's your, like, if you're going to play anything from Vital Lacerda, you have to see where's the multipliers.
Yeah.
And kind of you can't miss them. It doesn't mean you're going to win the game, but it'll mean you will lose the game.
Yeah.
If you're not able to play those multipliers.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely other areas that you can gain huge chunks of multipliers. I've found one of them is completely filling the rubble into your board. Because if you do get all the way up, you are getting some massive points from that. You're not getting massive points from what you'll get out of the church. You're not getting necessarily massive points although some of it, what you have, you may be able to get some pretty cool things through your points here. Your influence that you're picking up as you're playing cards in your tableau, those are going to add. And if you can get them in quick so that then they're going to multiply as you play throughout the game, that's going to help you out a lot. If you can get up here in the very beginning, you're not getting much at all from it. But once everybody starts playing, then you start to see where your points really come into play, because then you're able to really build the public buildings that are going to really score the points that you've got in those roads. And that, Brett is right. You do get a lot of points up here. I feel like there's more to it than just that, but I can see where that is going to be a place that people really need to focus on, especially in beginning of the play, to be competitive in terms of finding some bit of a matrix to get you. But this is a game where if you get going right away, and this is actually kind of a negative with it, if you can figure out the matrix that you want to go through to be able to start that path of victory points, if you take off right away in the beginning of the game, it's going to be very hard to catch somebody, not just somebody who has kicked up points right away, because that's easy. We got that. We've seen that where we've come back. But if somebody has a matrix going for them where they are constantly getting points, in addition to that huge kick that they had at the beginning, it's going to be very hard to catch them. And that can be a factor of the game that's going to make you say, do I want to keep playing this? What's the point of keeping playing this game? Because this game is not going to be 30 minutes and done. You're going to be sitting down for a while. Yeah. And if you lose that right away...
It's 3 hours.
Yeah, it is. And if you lose that right away, if you feel like you are so far behind right away, and I can understand where that would make somebody not enjoy the rest of the gameplay because they feel like they are never going to be able to catch back up. Now, there are some great hidden points at the end of the game when you do your scoring, at the midterm when you do your scoring, that are going to give you huge boosts. But at the same time, it's going to be hard to catch that player that's out out right away.
Yeah, you'll want, if you know how to play the game and somebody else doesn't, you have to help them along. Otherwise, they'll never play the game with you again. This is one of those games. Probably like Food Chain Magnet. I haven't played that, but like, if you don't know how to do it and you go the wrong way, you're out and you're committed to this 3-hour game. Like, you need to make sure you're helping people. I believe to do that in all games, but like these, you absolutely have to do that. But to your point, Toph's talking about the multiplier here, but you still have to build the buildings to then
you do.
And that's what I mean by the funnel. And thematically, this is about rebuilding Lisbon. So that I firmly believe that's intentionally designed to be like, I want you to rebuild Lisbon. Here's where the points are, right? So it's all right. But at the same time, like, I don't I still feel like I'm getting a bit funneled.
Okay.
Because of like I said, it's the multipliers.
Well, and there's that also comes into play with. I would say, I probably play this game a little bit better than you do.
Oh yeah,
but that also comes down to, like, there are games that you play much more efficiently than I do. And that could be something too, that if you're playing this game, if everybody is new at it, everybody's on a playing board, but this may be a game that you just excel at and you're really good at because you see some of that path. I see that a little bit more, I think, than maybe in our first game. I don't want to say now, but I think in our first game, I saw it and I went for it and it was quick. And I think one of the things that helped me, there's also a racing mechanic in this game. It is not a racing game, but when you get up, I believe it's filling 3.
If you fill this up, the game's over.
Yeah, I think if you fill 2 full tracks, you end the first round, and then when you fill the fourth track completely, then it ends the game. Yeah. You can get the 5th round or the 5th column as well. And once I realized I had a path, I needed to push that fast, and so that's probably not the good ethical gamer in me, but at the same time, I was seeing that, and you and I, first time we had played it. Mm-hmm. Derek had played it. He was teaching it, but that can be a good and a bad thing. That can be a positive.
Well, we weren't prepared for it. No. But then the second time me and Toph played it, and I knew to watch out for that game ending mechanic. Like a player can end the game versus the game ending the game, so to speak. And there's always that in there with his games. And then when we taught Ara how to play it, as we were helping her, she was able to zero it in and end the game. And you beat her by a couple points.
Yeah, actually,
but we were helping. Like it's interesting. So there's still this system that you have to play. There's a lot going on. So anyway, we probably lost most of you back a while because this is
welcome to an in-depth analysis of Lisboa.
Yeah. This is definitely not. This is a hard one to talk about.
It is,
right. It's not just cookie cutter positives, negatives. There's just a lot going on. It is a great game. So I'm gonna cut us off a little bit.
So the reason why it's so hard to talk about, the reason why it is such a challenging game, the weight. So let's dive into the ratings. So starting with the weight rating, this is rated on BGG at a 4.58, which is a pretty heavyweight game. So almost a 4.6. 5 is the max. So if you're not familiar with BGG
probably
rating,
coin games and then this.
Yeah.
On Mars, then this.
Yeah. On Mars is a little bit heavier. I think we looked on Mars up was like a 4.6 something. Yeah. This is a 4.58. And to give you a comparison, if you have played the Gallerist or if you have played Kanban EV, the Gallerist is a 4.26 and Kanban EV is a 4.34. Mm-hmm. So this is a 4.58. So that is a significant jump from Kanban EV, which was probably the heaviest game that we had played together leading up to this game.
Yeah. And we had to have somebody teach us this.
Yes. Yeah. We did okay with Kanban, but it definitely, if you can have somebody teach you any of these games, no matter which it is, it's going to make a big difference.
But like, for instance, I learned how to, I basically read the rule in Kanban EV. Mm-hmm. And then Toph and I sat down and played like a turn.
Figure it out type
just
thing.
So like, and then we reset and played it a few turns, and we reset, and then we played a game. Mm-hmm. I was having a hard time with this. I understood some of the mechanics reading it, and like I could reference the Kanban EV stuff and understood like he's got these mini games always going. But this one was after somebody taught it to us, and after having read it and having somebody teach it, it was like, okay, but there's even that.
It's daunting.
Like, this one is, I don't even know if there's a good watch it played or how do you play this out there. So if you, that's the other thing is like, see if you have somebody around you that likes this game that wants to teach people how to play it. That would really be my recommendation. That it's that hard.
Yeah,
It's a tough climb.
It very much is. I agree with the rating. I think it is spot on. This is, don't be afraid of it, but be afraid of it in a healthy way.
Yeah. Just realize you're going to put in some work.
Yes. When it frustrates you, because it will, don't be alarmed with that, because everybody's going through that when they're playing a game of this caliber, of this weight. So yeah, so that is the weight rating. I agree with it. I think it's spot on. 4.5 plus 4.58. That's, sit down and get ready. It's fantastic, but it's going to take you a while before you say it's fantastic. Yes. Yeah. What about the value of the game?
So I said it before in the appearance. Eagle Griffin Games, I think, make the best games. Now, I haven't bought some of their $50 games. This isn't $50. This is $125. It's the deluxe edition. Now, it's not the Kickstarter edition, but you're just going to get a few more things with this.
Metal coins.
Well, you can upgrade to that.
Oh, okay.
This is the deluxe edition.
Okay.
But then there's the all-in, which is like $155, and I think you do get some metal coins. Kanban EV, all-in Kickstarter, I think you get the metal cars. So, but so there's this is $125, and you're paying for it. Now, I think it's a little, these are too expensive. They really are. They're $125. And you're getting everything that you think you should for $125, unless you want metal coins. But then you're not getting that. So this is really hard for me to value, because if you're a casual gamer, this has a value of 1. This is not worth bringing out, right? But if you've gotten through Castles of Burgundy, if you have, what are some of your favorite brass? We love brass. If you're really loving Euro games, right? And then you're you're ready for the, Kanban EV, and then into this, you're not going to play this a lot. And I always get into this thing I'd like to see games be $10 a play or less. So to get this at that level, you're going to have to play this 10 times. And I've had it almost a year, and we have not played it that many times yet. Yeah. So how does it rate? I'll tell you. But the value, it's tough. It really is tough. I want to tell you it's a 3. It's probably a 2. I mean, for the number of times that you play it and how much it costs, it's tough, because it doesn't matter. I could say I could love this game, Toph could love this game, but when you really look at the number of times you're able to pull this out to the table for how much it costs, it takes a hit on the value rating. And I hate saying that. With this game. The value of it for the number of times you play is low. Now, it's a piece of art, right? And so when you start looking at that, then your value changes. But you can't put a price on art then. But I'm trying to give you a price for, this is not the game you start with, right? Kanban EV or the Gallows, they're 125. You might be able to get them on sale for 100. Those values. And I'm going to say that's a 3, right? So if you're looking at Vital Lacerda, I'm going to knock this one down. And it really hurts me to say that. But as I try to look at it, how much does it cost per game? This one's a tough one, because it is not cheap.
It's not.
And but it may be exactly what you want, but then you got to think of it as art or a collection, and then you don't value it. You can't value those things, because you're getting them for way different reasons than the value of the game for playing a game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would want to rate it higher. Now, granted, I did not buy this.
Right.
I've bought 2 Lacerda games, so I have the investment of the heavier game, or the more expensive games, and I have some other games that have been, at that price. That's just part of this hobby is getting into some heavyweight and some pretty expensive games. I think your words of saying this is art makes perfect sense. For me, it's not just art to look at; it's art in the style of the play. The definition of
And that's what I
Or
mean. Like, it's a museum
yeah.
piece. It's there's
And
you can't evaluate that.
I value it a little bit higher because of that aspect of it. It is a beautiful game to play. Granted, we have not played it a whole lot. I do want to play it more. I would not pull this out at our game night with most people. Not necessarily just our game night, but a game night in general. With most people, you have to have the right people to play it. That does affect it. But okay, let me say this. I think it is worth $125 a lot more now that I've played it than I did before we played it. Before we played it, I was thinking, there's no way. It's not worth it. Why would you ever want to do it? And I think my value came up some. I'm not saying it came up to a 5. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But, God, I love this game so much. I really do.
Oh, I know.
I really do.
But I'm just trying to let you... It doesn't mean... The value doesn't mean it's a bad game.
No.
It just means...
No, it's expensive.
Basically, I'm just trying to tell you how many games you're going to play versus how much it costs.
Yeah.
It's going to get... on average, I'd say it's a 2. But this... We've played this less. With
so many of the games that you and I play, you could get 2 to 3 games for the cost of this one game. And we've gotten so much more gameplay out of some of those games.
So that's the value rating. It's not a game rating. So just be aware of that. So let's go on to the game ratings. So we're going to make you wait for him. My rating.
Brad, what did you rate this game?
So I want to love this game as much as Toph does, but I don't. I love a lot about it. I can appreciate it. And I would say I started a little bit lower and I've went a little bit higher and now I've kind of come back down, probably in between the two. Willing to play it, yes. All those things. So the BGG rating that I'm giving it is based on the number of plays we've had. And right now I'm at a 7.5.
Oh, it hurts. It
What does a 7.5 mean?
7.5 is great. That is a great score for a game.
It's a good, I'm not getting a movie experience from this. It is a amazing Euro game, but there's other Euro games I would rather play than this. If Toph wants to play it, I'm going to play it. Right? But even we aren't like, I don't want to put that much effort into a game, play Lisboa. We have those conversations, right? And so to me, it's a 7.5. I'm not begging people to, hey, let's play Lisboa. Now, I will recommend it every once in a while, but I'm not always recommending. And to me, that has to be once it hits an 8 and a 9, I am recommending constantly. Here's my short list of games. I'll play any of these. I'll still play this one, but I'd rather play Kanban EV. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And you can see I put a dagger in his heart over here.
Just a little bit. I'm bleeding out on the floor.
But it's way better than Terraforming Mars.
God, you know how to hurt me. Hurt me.
It is. It's so much better.
Is it so much better?
All right. What's your rating?
I gave it a pure 10.
Will it be number 1? Will it? If you've seen, hey, click here, our top 10 games of all time. Where will this be on his list next year? 10 out of 10.
I will definitely have this in my top 10.
I'm just I want to know if it will supplant his number 1. So go check that video out.
We will see. We got a little bit of time until we do that video again. So we'll see what happens. A couple more months. Come January, we'll see what happens with my top 10. This will be on my top 10. I can guarantee you that. This will be on my top 10. I love this game. I absolutely love this game. And something clicks. When a game to me is so beautiful mechanically, that's where I give it the high ratings. It definitely does. It's fantastic.
It's an opus. It's a piece of art.
It is.
So, well, I think we've talked 5 times as long as we do for any other games. So hopefully you can understand, I can give it a 7.5. He can give it a 10. This is still a great game.
Yeah.
So, you have to evaluate so much about yourself and your game group and all those wonderful things. But if you made it this far, hit the subscribe button. Please.
Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Definitely subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you sticking around. And let us know, have you played Lisboa, or are you afraid to jump into Lisboa? Both are extremely valid responses, and maybe actually are the exact same answer from the same people. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
And no matter how you're playing games, whether you're playing solo, with family, or friends,
Enjoy whatever brain burner you are bringing to the table.
have a great night.
Bye.